Hello, welcome to Business Week, where we look at activities and major business stories in the week. I am Frank Omolape. Here's what's coming up in a moment. Nigeria's total trade with the United Kingdom depreciates by 25% in the first quarter of 2024, despite the higher value realized from the Naira devaluation. Plus, the NNPC Total Energies joint venture has officially announced a $550 million final investment decision on the Better Fuel Development Project. Outside Nigeria, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, says it's investing in 4 European tech companies as part of a €1 billion fund aimed at addressing defense and challenges. Well, these and many more are the highlights of the show. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us on the Business Week. Let's bring you some stories that made headlines in the week. Nigeria's trade surplus with countries in the Economic Community of West African States rose by 216% year-on-year to 1.14 trillion in the first quarter of 2024. Analysis of foreign trade data for the first quarter in 2024 released by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that export to ECOWAS countries rose by 213% to 1.25 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2024 from 399.1 billion naira in the first quarter of 2023. On the other hand, import rose year-on-year by 167% to 113.04 billion naira in the first quarter of 2024 from 42.29 billion naira in the first quarter. Main trading export partners for the quarter are Ivory Coast, Senegal, Benin, Togo, and Ghana, representing 98.61% of the total exports to ECOWAS countries. Meanwhile, Nigeria's total trade with the United Kingdom has dropped by 25% in the first quarter of 2024, despite the higher value realized from the Naira devaluation. This is according to the recent foreign trade statistics report by the National Bureau of Statistics. The total trade between Nigeria and the UK dropped from 602.36 billion in the first quarter 2023 to 445.45 billion naira in the first quarter 2024. This represents a significant year-on-year decline of 25%. A closer look at the data reveals that both import and export have experienced declines. Meanwhile, Nigeria's import from the UK decreased from 186.9 billion naira in the fourth quarter of 2023 to 183.3 billion in the first quarter of 2024, marking a 2% quarter-on-quarter decline. However, on a year-on-year basis, the import increased by 25%, up from 146.88 billion naira in the first quarter of 2023. Elsewhere in the week, as part of efforts towards boosting Nigeria's oil and gas production, the NNPC Total Energies joint venture has officially announced a $550 million final investment decision on the Better Fuel Development Project. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Abuja, speakers agreed that the project is a testament to the effectiveness of the government's policies aimed at creating a conducive environment for investment in the gas sector. Located in the OML F58, the Better Gas Condensate field will be developed with a new 6-well cluster connected to the existing OBT facilities through an 11 kilometers buried pipeline. Production startup is expected in 2027 with a plateau of 300 billion cubic feet per day.
We have the full support of government to go in this direction to the extent that we will secure these lives, the pipeline in the first instance, and every other intervention that is required to ensure that production comes to normalcy, while we look forward to growth in the coming months, will happen.
On the way from there now, the Apapa Command of the Nigeria Customs Service has achieved a remarkable milestone in revenue generation. The command reported an unprecedented 17.9 billion in revenue collected in a single day. TVC News senior business correspondent Tiffany Eze has more.
The achievement comes under the leadership of Controller Babatunde Olomu, who assumed office just a month ago. He has overseen a 12.5% increase from earlier this year, surpassing previous records by nearly 2 billion naira. He says that the substantial contribution of almost 18 billion naira to the Federation account in one day highlights the command's commitment to enhancing trade operations and combating illicit activities.
Apapa Area Command of the Nigerian Customs Service has recorded a landmark daily collection of 17 billion 903 million 312,598 on the 14th of June 2024, being the highest since its inception. This unprecedented revenue collection is a way of celebrating the 1 year in office of the Controller General of Customs, Bashir Adewale Adeniyi, MFR, DSM, PSC Daga.
Controller Olomu emphasized the command's dedication to sustaining the momentum through compliance, collaboration and automation in line with customs leadership's strategic pillars.
We are leveraging on stakeholders' engagement, blocking of revenue leakages, facilitation of trade, engagement of our stakeholders, and building upon the CGC's cardinal point of collaboration, consolidation, and innovation. The Nigerian Customs Service, I would say, is one of the agencies of government that we've kept modernizing and ensuring that virtually all our processes are automated.
He knows that initiatives such as the Authorized Economic Operator and Advanced Ruling Programs underscore the focus on trade facilitation.
In its quest to advance scientific innovations in Lagos State, the governor of the state, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has inaugurated a newly constituted Lagos State Science, Research and Innovation Council and Cybersecurity Advisory Board. The event, which took place at the Lagos House in Ikeja, was presided over by the Deputy Governor, Dr. Kadri Hamzat, who announced a take-off grant of 1 billion naira for the effective commencement of the activities by the board. According to a statement by the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, it was essential to establish an innovation, science and technology body to manage Lagos State engagement with the science and technology ecosystem for deeper positive economic outcomes. On his part, the Commissioner for Innovation, Science and Technology, Mr. Tumbosun Alaki, while commending the initiative, noted that the Babajide Sanwo-Olu and Kadri Obafemi Hamzat administration has continued to enhance technology and digital solutions, which will increase the quality of livelihood of its citizens. And finally, outside Nigeria, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, says it will invest in 4 European tech companies. The investment in Europe's defense technologies intensified after the organization confirmed its first deep tech investment as part of a €1 billion fund that aims to address today's defense, security, and resilience challenges. The NATO Innovation Fund matches government buyers of technologies with startups to develop defense technologies. The first companies to receive the investment are European and include German's ERX Robotic, which designs on manned robots, and the 3 startups in the United Kingdom. NATO says it's also making investment to boost deep tech hubs in regions where capital for early-stage startups is in high demand to promote the alliance's technological sovereignty. Well, those were some of the biggest stories in the week. You're still watching Business Week. Coming up after this break, our focus is on prospects for Nigeria's manufacturing sector amid macroeconomic challenges, where that's our talking point in a moment. Please stay with us. Well, thank you, everyone. This is Business Week. Today, our talking point, we'll take a closer look at the Nigeria's manufacturing sector and prospect amid the ongoing macroeconomic challenges such as inflation and the exchange rate volatility. We also explore how manufacturers are coping with the volatility and, of course, the economic environment and what strategies are proving most effective. Well, let's get talking now. I've been joined by the chairman of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Papa branch, Mr. Frank Onyebu. He joins us now virtually. Thank you for your time, Mr. Onyebu. Well, let's start this way. How would you describe the current state of Nigeria's manufacturing sector amid the macroeconomic challenges facing the country today. I think we should get started from there.
Thank you very much for having me. We need to start from the economy. To say that the Nigerian economy is in dire straits is to state the obvious. And then the manufacturing sector is a part of the Nigerian economy and it's in really bad shape. The situation has been bad for a while, but it got a lot worse following the removal of first subsidy and the deregulation of the foreign exchange market. The inflation that followed it is something that most people did not expect. And unfortunately, the government has been trying to handle it in the traditional method of increasing interest rates. But that hasn't helped the situation. One is that the inflation has not come down, and the cost of borrowing has become so bad that most manufacturers can no longer borrow. Most manufacturers are unable to stay afloat. You've heard in the news that a lot of people are packing their bags and going to other countries. That's for those who have that capacity. The situation is that the manufacturing sector is actually in a survival mode. You can say it's in a situation where most manufacturers are currently unable to procure even basic raw materials. You don't have the capacity to produce and procure raw materials. A lot of manufacturers can no longer pay their salaries. So I can say it's in a state of imminent collapse. A lot of people are actually collapsing without your knowing. But some of the manufacturers you've heard on the news that are stopped. But for each manufacturer that is coming out on the news, there are probably over 100 that are dying quietly. So that's how bad the situation is right now.
Well, you mentioned earlier that the government has been trying to address the fallout of some of the ongoing economic reforms. But from the financial sector to oil, we have seen the government, the federal government, take some steps to address the impact of these reforms. Particularly, there are interventions in the manufacturing sector and, of course, the SME sector. How are these efforts paying off for the sector?
Businesses do not thrive under uncertainty. There's been a lot of uncertainty. First of all, I know that the government policy of the regulation of the foreign exchange market was supposed to be in the best interest of the economy. However, there ought to have been some controls that were put in place to ensure that the kind of free fall of the naira that happened at the onset did not happen. You know, a lot of manufacturers actually imported inputs when the exchange rate was at 1,008 going to 1,009, and the raw materials that have been imported with this have been used into production. Then suddenly the thing came down to 1,001, and then while they were just still grappling with what they were going to do with this, hoping that there was some form of control, the thing started going up again and all that. So we need a level of certainty for people to plan their businesses. It's actually impossible to plan very well under this uncertainty.
But I believe there are lots of opportunities as well as the challenges facing the industry as highlighted by you. What strategies are manufacturers like you adopting to mitigate the impact of the fluctuating exchange rates and inflation, of course, which has impacted massively on productivity and, of course, activities in the sector? Could you share your experience as a player in this sector?
For manufacturers that have substitutes to their imported inputs, they need to necessarily adopt that strategy. They need to move away from importation as much as possible. But unfortunately, not all goods that are being manufactured that you have substitutes. But most people are really going out of their way to find substitutes for their imported inputs. And for those, Like my own company, we're turning to recycle because we are producing suitcases, we are producing plastic products. And we know that there are some of them that we can use some recycled, plus but we can't do completely away with importation. There are still some parts, especially the machineries that they have to import. So we need government support in this area. We need government to try as much as possible to reduce the tariff on imported machineries, particularly. And then for some of the inputs that there are no substitutes, the government needs to actually tackle the issue of the tariff that are being imposed on imported goods. For finished goods, fine, the government can continue their tariff, but for inputs, the government really needs to do that. The government needs to encourage manufacturers because without manufacturing, this economy will be dead.
Well, if I understand you correctly, as you said, some manufacturers have some level of advantages over others because of, their substitute for raw materials or the nature of products that they are producing. Now, speak to us about this. How important has local sourcing become for Nigerian manufacturers?
There are so many products that we can actually use as local substitutes for our manufacturers. Unfortunately, the insecurity has actually destroyed the availability of these products. Let's look at the flour mills, for instance. Yes, we've been talking about using cassava as a substitute for wheat and all that. And I believe, and some other grains, we need to actually fund our research institutes. We need to create a situation where the manufacturers are actually giving some incentives to adopt some of the research work that has been done by these research, some of the research that has been done on, for instance, the cassava bread and all that. Cassava flour and cassava bread, we need to work on that. We need to get the agricultural sector of the economy working. And the way to tackle it is to start from the issue of insecurity. We need to resolve as much as possible. I know it's gone so bad, but if farmers are not working, if farmers are not going to the farms, it's going to be even difficult, even when research has shown that certain raw materials can be used in substitute for the foreign ones. But these local raw materials, unfortunately, because the farmers are not really doing what they ought to do, the prices of some of the local raw materials will even be higher than some of the ones that are being imported, which is quite unfortunate. Nigeria has a lot of arable land that can be used. If you are driving along the major highways, you see a lot of land that is lying fallow. There is no reason why these lands should not be cultivated. There are a lot of problems that need to be tackled, and the government needs to be involved.
Indeed, I get a point. I believe there are lots of opportunities in the Nigerian manufacturing sector if all of these challenges are taken care of. But looking ahead, what are your predictions for the future of the sector? Are there any emerging trends you believe hold significant promise? I think we need to wrap it up on this note.
Yeah, actually, like you said, there are lots of opportunities in the manufacturing sector. As a matter of fact, the Nigerian manufacturing sector hasn't even started. We are just at the lower stages. We have so much to do, but we need that government support. We talked about, I spoke about infrastructural deficiency. We need to work on getting the access to some of the manufacturing zone, industrial zone, in good shape. I can give you an example of Amuwo Odofe industrial area. The access roads are so bad that even trailers find it difficult to wade through. And you have a lot of manufacturers within this zone. And unfortunately, people who are supposed to buy the finished products cannot access the factories. The owners of the manufacturing of these factories can manage to even swim if necessary, sail if necessary, to get to their factories every day. But the people who have a choice wouldn't come there. So we need the government to work on at least improving on some of the infrastructures within the industrial areas. We need to work on power supply. You know, you've heard about this, of course, the band A, band B, band C thing is all over the news. Unfortunately, the government didn't think through very well before increasing the tariff. The tariff has increased. Most manufacturers, unfortunately, cannot sustain the payment that they've made. You can imagine a situation where somebody was paying a bill of, say, 50 million per month. Like my own factory, we are paying about 50 million, 60 million at the most prior to this tariff increase. And suddenly we were slammed with a bill of about 180 million. Where are we supposed to get this money from? You know, as if anybody has money lying around. The economic team that has been set up by the government, I'm hopeful that the government will listen, and hopeful that the government will really think about supporting the manufacturing sector. Because without the manufacturing sector, I don't think this economy can actually survive.
Well, I think a good place to leave it, Chairman, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Papa Branch, Mr. Frank Onyebo. Thank you for your invaluable insights on the program.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Right, you have been watching Business Week. Just before I let you go, let's tell you that the latest report by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that average price for premium motor spirit, popularly known as petrol, surged by 223.21% year-on-year to 769 naira 62 kobo per litre, compared to 238 naira 11 kobo per litre in May last year. According to the Premium Motor Spirit Price Watch report for May, the average retail price increased by 9.75% from 701 naira 24 kobo in April 2024. The report also shows that each geopolitical zone had its respective average prices. Northwest zone had the highest average retail price at 845 naira, while the North Central zone had the lowest price at 695. In the same vein, average retail price of 5 kilograms of cooking gas increased by 13.75% from 6,521 naira recorded in April 2024 to 7,418 in May 2024. According to the NBS LPG Price Watch for May 2023, Benue recorded the highest average price for refilling a 5 kilogram cylinder of cooking gas at 8,012 naira, followed by Enugu at 7,926 naira and Ondo at 7,857 naira, respectively. Well, and that's our show this week. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your weekend with us. I am Frank Omalape. I'll see you again.